Happy Sunday, y'all, and welcome to the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I am Jac Milham, joined this evening by the illustrious Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, Chiefs win. The Royals are undefeated this season, so it's a good Sunday, right?
The Royals are undefeated this season?
The Royals are 0-0 after, the World Series is over. So it's a new season. Isn't that how that works?
I don't think that's how that works.
No, you don't think so? Opening day.
Just like Leo Chanel, I'm willing to try and make the impossible happen. All right, let's go.
Hey, there we go. Listen, if you want more on that, you can go check out our sister site, Arrowhead Pride. But if you want to keep tabs on the Kansas City Royals, the spot to do that is over at royalsreview.com. News, analysis, and commentary that you need on all things Kansas City Royals related is at royalsreview.com. Plus, we bring you a couple of episodes every single week through the off season. Make sure you like or subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode from either one of us. So, Jeremy, what are we talking about today, man? It's kind of a quiet time for the Royals.
Well, I thought we could talk about, let's talk politics, Jacob. I think that's...
Oh, all right. Let me grab that wheel real quick. Grab that wheel back. Later on in the show, we will be jumping into the infield free agency group. Jeremy has assured me he has some interesting takes on that, so stay tuned for that.
Spicy.
Now, that's a spicy take. I don't know why it was Italian Dracula, but here we are.
This old spicy meatball Alka-Seltzer commercial.
Yeah, that is a deep cut, sir. I'm going to need you to...
From my childhood.
Yeah, that was
my
wild.
Childhood is now deep cuts.
Yes.
Good. Excellent.
Yes, Jeremy. Jeremy, as you've heard in the background, if you've missed the last couple episodes, our goddaughter and her parents are moving in with us. And I was trying to find some of the old PBS shows that I watched growing up because I didn't have cable growing up. And you can't even find most of these shows. They're just on YouTube for free. I was just like, oh, I want to show her Wishbone, and I want to show her Between the Lions. I loved Wishbone.
And Reading Rainbow and Arthur.
Mm-hmm. All of them are just on YouTube. They're not even on a streaming service.
Public broadcasting channel.
They
had a production of Sweeney Todd starring Angela Lansbury.
Really?
That they aired on PBS at one point. That was on YouTube. As like when I went to college, we watched that on YouTube because it was there because PBS aired it, and that meant we could watch it in class. It was cool.
We love us some PBS here on this podcast. I will tell you that much. But some other things that we love from around the Royal sphere. First off, Jeremy, I told you I was going to surprise you with this number from Jac Caglianone. So if you have been, out of touch with the Royals stuff, the Royals sent a pretty good group of prospects down to Arizona Fall League. 3 of them got selected for their All-Star game, so congrats to them. Carter Jensen, Jac Caglianone, and Avila. But Caglianone has been turning a lot of heads the past week, and he had a multi-home run game, just doing amazing stuff. And then he had one on the 6th, 113 miles per hour off the bat, just an amazing moonshot, right? And it was off of another pitcher who's been having a pretty good fall down there. Here's the thing. Down there in Arizona, they do actually have access to some of the advanced metrics. So
they've got the stat track or the stat man or whatever in some of the stadiums.
Yeah, not in all. This is from, excuse me, I want to make sure that I get his name right. His social media name is The Welsh. I just know him as Welsh. He's over at the Prospect One podcast. He's been keeping tabs on all things Arizona Fall League so far there in person. And he got this from Caglianone. He said, I talked to Jac last night. He told me the data he got in the dugout after this home run had it at 503 feet.
Right, this is an audio medium.
Yes. Yeah. I know you are shocked and speechless, Jeremy, but say something, damn it.
Holy cow.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine seeing that
No.
in person?
Well, I can imagine. Okay, so when I first got into baseball, I had a Nintendo 64, so I was playing different games on there, like Griffey, I kept trying to say Lou Griffey, and that's definitely not the guy. Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball, and I would do like home run derbies, and I was a big Cardinals fan as well as a Royals fan at the time, so I was all like Mark McGuire. Let me do home run derby, Mark McGuire, and I would hit home runs. I put in like a Game Shark, and I was hitting home runs like 500 feet, and I'm like, yes, this is appropriate. This is how long Mark McGuire home runs are. He didn't actually hit that many 500-foot bombs. He might have had a couple. So to hit it even once at 500 feet is, and I don't care if you're in Arizona, I don't care if you're in Mile High, to hit it once at 500 feet is absolutely astounding. You cannot question the raw power that Jac Caglianone brings to the plate. We still have many questions to answer about game power, about his ability to access his game power by hitting the ball when as he moves up through the system and faces more and more difficult pitchers. And if he does choose to continue pitching in the minors, and if the Royals let him, which I know they've said they would, but you can always change your mind. If that makes it all even that much harder because there's that much more he has to work on. So there are still questions, but the one question I don't think anyone can have about Jac Caglianone is, does he have raw power? He does.
He has that in spades, an entire deck of it. But yeah, that was a truly astounding number. And number one, that was just one of 8 balls he's had with exit velocities above 110. Like, I think he topped out at 117 in the fall league, which would have been one of the hardest hit balls by any MLB first baseman this year. Like, he has power, no doubt, and he showed some of it in the All-Star game last night. Just great stuff from the Royals' top pick this past year. On with more of the Royals stuff, go ahead.
Real quick before you do that,
Yeah.
I just looked him up on Fangraphs just for fun. For all the prospects for the last decade or more now, they have, their prospect reports, right, that you can access. And they use that 80 grade scouting scale, right? And they give you where the player is at now and where he's projected to get to, right? Jac Caglianone raw power 70/80. He's already got more raw power than almost anyone in MLB. And he's projected to break the scale to be at the very top of raw power by the time he's done.
Stop it, Jeremy. You already sold me, all right? Golly.
This is why the Royals drafted him when they did, is because they believed he could do that. Also, I'm looking at, they've got his pitching stuff on here too, and they've got him with an above average fastball and an above average changeup. So maybe the Royals are smart. Maybe he's smart to say that the pitching should still happen too. That's 2 above average pitches. That's a good starting point.
It is a good starting point. I will be interested to see when they make a final call either way, because he hasn't pitched in the fall league. He's just been batting.
Right. He won't pitch until next year at the earliest.
Right. Hey, speaking of pitching, we did get some insights from JJ Picollo regarding how the team is sitting on that front thanks to MLB.com's Annie Rogers. So earlier on this month, Picollo spoke with another MLB.com writer about the club's plans during the upcoming offseason. And Picollo was pretty straightforward on starting pitching, saying, quote, "We don't expect to be in the market for a starter. Moving forward, we're going to focus on some other things," end quote. Which, Jeremy, makes sense. Actually, when you look at the starting 5 or the starting 4 at the very least, is set. You go about 7 or 8 guys deep where you could see them making that number 5 spot. This is a good spot to be in, I think.
Yeah. The only question I guess I have there is does this mean the Royals are not considering trading Brady Singer? Is that not really a possibility for them? We've talked about this. We're not the only ones who've talked about this, but this is the sweet spot for trading him as far as team control left, the quality of his abilities. Um, if you don't trade him now, this is when you're going to get the most bang for your buck without giving up and give up the least Brady Singer that you're going to give up.
Which,
so if you can wait till next offseason and you can trade him and you can still get a decent return, but you'll get much more this offseason than you will next offseason unless he just turns into an ace next year, which is very unlikely, honestly. He probably is just a mid-rotation guy, which is hugely valuable. That's why you could trade him for a lot of money right now. Or a lot of prospects don't trade him for money. Or a lot of major league talent.
Yeah, there you go.
And I think we're going to talk in a minute here. A little sneak preview for the infield. Royals probably going to need to trade if they want to really fill out that lineup. They're going to have to trade something.
I think so. But Piccolo did also speak pretty definitively on Singer, calling him a quote lock in our rotation. He said the same thing kind of over and over again. I know I do it a lot, but even Piccolo does that. Going on to say, when you look at our top four, Brady is in it. We'd like to have him because you can never have enough depth. Like, it sounds like as of right, like that just poured a lot of cold water on the Brady Singer trade speculation. It's not just us speculating about it. Like, this is like on a national level. Folks are saying like, hey, this is the guy to trade if you're going to trade from a competitive team. Well, it's a little disappointing, but also not, I guess. Like,
and it's not definitive. He can say that now, and circumstances can change.
It's talk, GM talk. We're all used to it,
and that, to me, that's still different from what Dayton Moore would tell us, which is like, everybody's going to get better next year. We just got to get more athletes in here. Everybody just needs to try a little bit harder. That's just gaslighting us. That's not the same thing as saying, well, we don't plan to trade Brady Singer. And then if he comes back in a few weeks and he's traded Brady Singer, circumstances can change. Absolutely. They do change. So it's different. This is not me being like, oh, JJ Piccolo's a liar. It's me being like, well, things happen. I guess don't count on them trading Brady Singer, but this isn't the same thing as when Dayton Moore would just lie to our faces.
Exactly. We did hear from Piccolo regarding the lineup. Like, he is really prioritizing on base ability over slugging.
He finally watched that one, Moneyball. Watched Moneyball.
Yes,
good for him. It's a good movie.
It is. Great movie, even better book. Y'all need to go listen or read to the book if you have the chance. Just amazing writing from Michael Lewis. Trying to find the quote. Give me 1 second. Okay, so quote, on base is a big focus, especially when we want to put the game in motion and be athletic. Ideally, it would be in the leadoff spot and maybe somewhere in the middle of the lineup, end quote. The path that he sees to the lineup lengthening, which I know it sounds simple, but Royals fans saw it a lot this year of like, hey, it gets past Salvi or even it gets past Quintino, and it's just you're waiting for the next time you have Bobby Witt Jr. at the plate. Like, we need to keep that line moving and things like that. And Jeremy, we're going to talk about some of those guys here in the infield preview. But do you agree? Is that what the Royals need more than like batting power? They need an on base guy.
I've said repeatedly that I think what this lineup needs more than anything is consistency, and on base percentage is consistency. The higher your on base percentage, the more often you get on base, the more consistent your offense is. That's just math.
Yes,
that's just how the math works.
Math does math.
So yeah, I agree. If they want to get an OBP guy and a power guy, I'm not going to complain. If they wanted to get two OBP guys, I would love that.
Yeah.
Even if you've got an OBP guy batting fourth or fifth, like just putting pressure on teams by putting runners on and by circling that lineup back around, get Bobby Witt Jr. another at bat because the bottom of the order didn't go down in order, it's worth it.
It absolutely is. Jeremy, before we start talking about specific infield guys. I want to hear from you. You said you had some spicy takes, so go and set the tone, man. What you got?
Well, my spicy takes are primarily in specifics. The first thing I noticed when I look at the top 50 free agents on MLB Trade Rumors, which I've said repeatedly, that's the site I like to go to when I'm starting to think about free agents. Their top 50 free agents, there's only one third baseman in that whole thing, and that's Alex Bregman, who comes in at, see if I can find him again real quick. I think he's like third. Yeah, he's the third best free agent. He is gonna be expensive.
Very expensive.
But he's also, like, when I look at his numbers, when I look at him on Baseball Savant, there's more blue than I want for a guy who's gonna be expensive. If I'm gonna pay a lot of money, I want it basically all red.
If you are bought for an elite guy, then you want elite production from them.
Yeah. So that concerns me. And I talked a little bit last week, and I kind of hinted at other times that Gleyber Torres might be my guy. And I don't hate Gleyber Torres, but boy, he put a lot of blue on his card after being very red for a couple of years. Well, 22 wasn't super red either, but 23 he was very red. 24 he put some blue in there. Now he doesn't chase a lot, and he does square up the ball pretty good, but it doesn't result in like a lot of hard hit balls or a high average exit velocity necessarily, because he doesn't barrel it. He does walk, but his defense is atrocious. And I had been thinking he could play third base, but if he's atrocious at second, I don't know that gets better at third base. And I'm willing to sacrifice defense if you're gonna promise me you can hit, but I don't feel like Gleyber Torres can promise me he's gonna hit.
I don't get that.
Kind of, if the Royals sign him, I'm not gonna complain, but I'm not gonna like champion him either. Like, if I was in the front office, I'm not going to JJ Piccolo and being like, you have to have Gleyber Torres. I'm not doing that anymore. So looking around at the other infield options, a lot of flawed guys. Willy Adames was another guy who's high up there. He's got a lot of blue on his card. So then I found two guys that are a lot of red on their card that I kind of like, but this is where it gets really spicy, Jacob.
All right.
You got your antacids?
Oh, I do.
You got your Alka-Seltzer?
Yeah, I'm going to be paying for it later, but let's get spicy. We're on hot ones now, apparently.
Joc Pederson and Christian Walker.
Joc Pederson. We talked about him in the outfield.
He's got all the red, baby. And when I look at Joc Pederson, he's got a consistent history of putting up above average numbers.
Wrong, but he's an outfielder. Like, where does he play?
I would put it. He's classified as an infielder for me because he's first baseman a lot. And I would probably make him the full-time designated hitter if the Royals signed him.
I don't hate that as a designated hitter move.
Yeah. So that's, and Christian Walker is also a first baseman. So you could split some time, especially if the Royals traded Freddie Fermin, then you'd need a backup catcher. You'd lose that opportunity, I guess, to play Salvi at first base so often, but you could do stuff with Christian Walker being like a designated hitter against lefties and a first baseman against righty. My brain is wrong there. I'm doing that math wrong somehow, but that's, you could do some platoon stuff with him maybe. And with Vinny and with who's playing first, and what's playing second, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the only infielders that I'm like, oh, those are pretty good numbers. And their contract projections on MLB Trade Rumors are pretty low. Let me pull those up again for us. Well, Christian Walker's not super low, 3 years, 60. But that is a lot less than Pete Alonso's 125, with better numbers as a first baseman, or at least more red. Pete Alonso hits dingers, not much else. And then Pederson is probably going to be 2 years, 24. So if you added Pederson and then you added Conforto into your outfield, you lengthen your lineup without spending a ton of money or locking yourself into long-term contracts. Now, the thing about all that is, and this is what I was kind of alluding to earlier, is you still have a hole at third base if that's how you handle it. But again, Alex Bregman is the only third baseman. And this isn't, I don't think the Royals can afford him. This is, I wouldn't pay him the money that he's going to get. He's not probably going to be worth it. And I am scared, especially when you look at, the drastic decline in walk rate that he had last year. I'm scared that he's falling off in a hurry. So if you need a third baseman, and the Royals do need a third baseman, I think what you're looking at is a trade, which is why I'm like, you're definitely not going to trade Brady Singer. How are you going to get a third baseman? If you want a third baseman, a starting quality third baseman, the package starts with Brady Singer or it starts with one of your top prospects.
That's the only way that it goes. And there isn't any weight helping down on the farm. I would go as far to say in the position player group at all. There isn't a guy waiting at second base. Javier Vaz, I love his projectability, but he's still a little
He's not
ways
ready.
away. No, like no one is. I'm not going to expect anyone coming into spring training go and grab an opening day spot because they're that good and that ready. There at least has to be some sort of depth addition. I think that is a must. That is not a
Well, I'm beyond depth here. I'm saying get me a starter. Let's make Michael Garcia a utility infielder. Let's make MJ Melendez a utility outfielder, and let's move on. That's what this is where the Royals need to go if they want to be competitive. And so if you pass on Peterson and you pass on a Christian Walker because you want to have flexibility through the designated hitter spot, that's fine. But you need an outfielder and you need a third baseman. And they've got to be high quality guys who consistently lengthen your lineup.
I know in Piccolo's statements he was talking about a leadoff guy, and we spoke a little bit in the outfield group about some of the guys that we think could fill that. But if you go out and get another bat, they're probably going to go in the middle of the lineup, which is fine. Now you're talking about a full-time DH only type of guy with some positional versatility if you have to break the glass. What do you think about Paul Goldschmidt in that role? I understand he's not the superstar that he once was. Louis Cardinals tenure it started out great, but it's been sliding downhill since then. He has some of that red that you like on Baseball Savant. He also has some of that blue there. And all, like, he is a name that I think Royals fans are going to be interested in. And I think that is his role in the MLB. I just don't know if the Royals should be the one to give him that chance. You know what I mean?
When I look at Paul Goldschmidt, my first thought is 88 WRC plus against righties. He's never hit righties well.
Never has.
He hits them. He's bad now. He doesn't offer speed or glove to overcome that 88 WRC plus. He can hit lefties, but there aren't enough lefties to make that juice worth the squeeze. That's where I'm at there. And he doesn't walk a lot. He does strike out too much. That's not a guy who's adding consistency to your lineup.
All right. That absolutely makes sense. Now here's before I get into this isn't even bargain bin diving. This is like defective product that customer has returned, and you're like, oh well, maybe
yes.
I could polish this up or fix it up and make it usable again. I do have one guy there that was like, you know what, I would like for them to bring in this guy as depth. Enrique Hernandez. He had
mind him as a utility guy.
He's a pretty, I wouldn't call him pretty dang close to a super utility guy. He had games at third base, first base, left field, center field, second base, shortstop, all that for the Dodgers. His bat's nothing to write home about. He had an 83 WRC plus in 2024. All in all, like, man, this guy's been on a lot of winning ball clubs. He knows what postseason baseball is like. He has that experience. He knows that mindset. So I think that there's a bench role for him somewhere in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Dodgers ended up using him a lot. And if the Dodgers can use him, I think the Royals could use him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think he could fill some of that. He could be another utility guy alongside Garcia, and he adds, of course, the ability to play the outfield, which Garcia probably can, but we don't know for sure because we've never seen it. And he adds a little bit of pop. He's kind of like a DeYoung, except that he doesn't strike out as much, and he could play the outfield. His defense, he can't play short. DeYoung could play short, though the Royals never did let him.
For some reason.
And they've still got Michael Garcia could play short. So that's not a huge concern for me. But yeah, if they wanted to sign Enrique Hernandez to 2-3 million and put him in a utility role, I wouldn't hate that. I would think that if they offer him that kind of money, the Dodgers will offer him the same or more, and he'll just go back to where he's comfortable. But yeah, other than that, he would absolutely fill that Paul DeYoung role of a little bit of pop off the pinch without the strikeouts that DeYoung has.
So, and that's a good point, that if that's what the Royals feel like offering him, well, chances are there's probably a more enticing team out there willing to offer him the same money. I would like to see what they can do. He had 71 games at third base for the Dodgers, so that apparently is his most comfortable role. Oh, let me get into the two broken players, to the two really, really ugly looking players that Royals fans aren't going to like. But I think you'll like some of these numbers, Jeremy. 15 WRC plus in 2024.
All right, that's a good start.
Are a little high, 29.2% across his career, but he only struck out 24.4% of the time in 24. Walked at 11.1% last year. His career is 9.7. Like, good stuff.
Yeah.
His career. Even in the field, primarily a third baseman.
Okay.
Any idea what I'm talking about?
I have no idea who we're talking about.
Moncada.
Yoan Moncada?
Yeah, Yoan Moncada. That's what I said, right?
Sure you did. Absolutely. That's definitely what you said.
I'll go White Sox fame.
Yeah. Interesting. Let me look at this a little bit more. Yeah. So about that 379 BABIP. I was like, you're hiding something from me, Jacob. What are you hiding from me?
Do a good job at that, don't I?
Yeah.
Listen, there is even the White Sox, they didn't want to pay him. He had a $25 million club option for this year that they declined. And I know he doesn't I can't recall a time that like he's had a bad locker room experience or a bad fan experience or anything like that. There's not a lot of positive vibes about him as like a person out there. I just think he kind of keeps to himself, and fans don't really like that. 29 years old, he is going to get a shot somewhere. Royals have a need. I think if you approach him with an incentive-laden deal, then maybe you get something.
I would go for Moncada at third base under two conditions. The first is you make a splash going for your outfielder.
Yeah.
Because Moncada can be the second best guy you sign. He cannot be close to the best.
Can't.
And the second condition is it has to be late in the offseason, and you have to have looked at a lot of other options, and you can't be paying him much.
I agree with all those points.
He needs to be like plan C, that you're like, well, for plan C, it's pretty good for a plan C.
And then I have plan for you.
Okay.
I would say in Drury. You remember that name?
Yeah, I was actually high on him last year, if I recall correctly.
2023 with the Angels, worth 2.7 FWAR, above average at the plate, above average in the field. Just did a lot of good things for that team. 2024, on the other hand, did a lot of bad things for that team. 4 WRC plus across 97 games and negative 2.1 FWAR for the Los Angeles Angels. Like, it was a brutal year. Him there in the Royals, they could really use a platoon guy.
No.
You wouldn't
No.
like him as a bench guy.
He's got nothing that appeals to me at this point.
Ding.
He's 32 years old. He was in the first percentile of xWOBA, the second percentile of expected batting average, the first percentile of expected slugging, the 10th percentile of barrel percentage, the 21st percentile of average exit velocity. No, just no. No.
Jeremy, they're gonna have to take some gambles.
Bad. Oh. Don't make me get the newspaper out and swat you on the nose, Jacob.
And fine. But I mean, that just shows like how bad this infield crop is.
Well, that's why I'm saying if you want a third baseman, you're probably looking at a trade. Jonathan India's name keeps coming up. Not a guy I would hate over at third base. Gosh, I don't know off the top of my head who else might be available who could play third base.
Hey, let me clarify on that Jonathan India thing real quick.
Yeah.
So because I got into it with someone on social media. Like I had a discussion with someone on social media about it.
Yeah.
There's two national writers connecting the dots of like, hey, the Royals and Reds make good trade partners, and Spencer Steer and Jonathan India might be some good trade targets for the Royals. That two have not come up in trade conversations with the Royals and the Reds yet. Okay, I confirmed.
There's just a lot of smoke around India being traded in general. I don't want anything to do with Steer, honestly.
And I'm just trying to say for India and the Royals specifically, that has not come up yet.
Yeah, I don't know that any negotiations have happened, but just people keep talking about him being traded in general. So I'm like, well, if he's out there, if he is available, he's a guy I would absolutely target if I was the Royals. He's not, again, a superstar. So if you trade for him, I'm hoping you're making a pretty big splash. Honestly, if they add Conforto and India, I feel like that's a pretty good upgrade for your offense to go from a lend, because going back to that idea that we had last year of if you upgrade from really bad to average, that's the same thing as upgrading from average to really good, right? And the team was good enough to win 84 games last year, 86 games, 86 games. 84 was my prediction, just throw that out there. But yeah, so if you upgrade the really bad Michael Garcia and the pretty bad NJ Melendez to an above average Michael Conforto and an average to above average Jonathan India, then your lineup has gotten significantly better. So that's not going to cost a ton, I don't think. We talked about Conforto's projected numbers last week, less than 20 for 2 years. You do that in a heartbeat, I think. And India is still, if I remember correctly, in arbitration. So he's not getting paid a ton yet. And I don't think he's played well enough to demand like a huge return as far as money. Now, he primarily is second baseman and shortstop. I don't know that he's ever played third base, but I have to believe that he's shown enough defensively. He's had a good range at second base. I believe that he could play third.
You could as well, and especially when you have a coach like Jose Alguacil. I mean, he coached up Michael Garcia pretty quickly. I think India would be a good fit to transition.
Yeah, and he doesn't strike out a lot, and he walked a lot more last year than his career. His career walk rate now after last year's 10.5%. Last year it was 12.6. But FGDC and Steamer are both projecting him to walk at about a 10 and an almost 11% rate next year.
Damn.
They're projecting him to a 347 OBP. 347 OBP in the leadoff spot.
I'll take that
as
leadoff
opposed
spot.
to what was Michael Garcia's OBP? I'm going to look that up again real quick.
Don't remind
I
me.
believe it was sub 300. So you add 70 points of OBP. Yeah. Would you like to add 70 points of OBP to the leadoff spot? I think that would work. I think that would work.
Hey, I'm not a visual medium, but I just grabbed the whiteboard off the back because at Moneyball earlier on, I was thinking about an exercise off season, it's like, okay, how do we? I think we can moneyball the leadoff spot the best. I think you hope that the Royals take a big swing, like a good outfielder, but you want some options. I think a good leadoff spot gives you an OBP of 331 or greater, strikeout percentage less than 19.8%, and a walk rate above 8.7%. That's kind of been the league average in those metrics.
Dia fits there.
Dia fits there. There you go. That's why I was bringing that up.
Yeah.
I
know he's been kind of a disappointment to people in Cincinnati, but I look at his numbers and I'm like, yeah, he's fine. I mean, he's not a 2020, he's not a 30-30 guy, he's not even a 2020 guy, but last year he had 15 home runs, 13 stolen bases. We put him in a good lineup. And by the way, he was already under contract for next year at 4.4 million. Then he's ARB eligible in 2026. So the Royals would be getting 2 years of control with him.
Good.
And that last year would be fairly expensive because that last year is when they can compare the ARB numbers to major league contracts, not just other ARB eligible guys. So that's how that works. But still I think that would work. Now he does have a little bit of an injury history. He went on the the IL once last year, twice in 22, once in it was COVID in 2021. So
account. India's a guy that just had an amazing rookie year, and he's been kind of trying to get out of that shadow since then. He is more than a serviceable B player. I'm comfortable with you going out there and getting him, hoping that he sticks at third base. Worst comes to worst, I mean, he's platooning with Massey, which extends.
You're a little far from your mic, Jacob.
I am, because I'm just yelling so much, Jeremy. A lot. Just go out, round it out, get Matt Duffy, have him be your 26th man on the roster.
What are you talking about?
So well last time, Jeremy. You have to add Matt Duffy.
We don't need a platoon for Michael Massey. Certainly, I don't want to trade for India to make him the short side of a platoon. That's not going to be a good use of assets.
Massey is not the everyday second fielder in.
Yes, he is.
Baseman in 2025.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
He is. He is.
They find a platoon partner for him in this offseason.
Michael Garcia is his platoon partner. It's fine.
Disagree, Jeremy.
I disagree to disagree. You're just wrong.
All right, well, I guess we should probably get out of here before Jeremy and I just tear each other apart over something as trivial.
No, we're staying here forever. Your conflict is good for podcasting. Is this good podcasting, everyone? Are you enjoying yourselves right now?
So I hope you are. If you are, make sure you subscribe, follow, rate, review the podcast, whatever it is that you want to do on your respective platform. We greatly appreciate it. Check out royalsreview.com. All right. I think I got all the plugs in, Jeremy.
Sure.
Did I miss any?
I don't know, man.
Okay. I hear you there. It is a Sunday evening. I'm ready to go get some dinner here in a little bit. But let's go ahead and do some Royals reviews. How's that sound, Jeremy?
Sure, let's do it.
Start us off, man. What you got?
Oh, I have to start us off.
I'll start us off with a quick one.
Yeah, you start us off with a quick one. Well, I have it, but I haven't, it's still formulating in my brain what it is that I'm saying.
Mine's really quick. New monster drink. I drink a lot of energy drinks, not like one or two every day, but a week at least. Like the zero sugar, low carb ones. And I tried out this Ultra Sunrise from Monster. Citrusy, orangey drink. It's solid. It's okay. It's kind of like a lighter high C. Like, my teeth feel weird after I drink high C. Like, they're coated in sugar and crap. Is refreshing and nice. I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. Jeremy, I'm trying here, man.
I do not know what to do with any of that, Jacob.
You can take the teeth comment in a lot of different ways, but I would greatly appreciate it if you didn't, Jeremy.
I'm just gonna move on. So this week I'm gonna review the Dresden Files series by Jim Butcher. I think I've mentioned it before, but it's been a while. The thing about Jim Butcher, as compared to my favorite author, Brandon Sanderson, is that I love all of Jim Butcher's books too, but he writes much slower. So I've had to put it down for a bit, and I was waiting for the next books to come out. So he's got 16 of them now, and I've listened. I'm the 15th. Um, I love the character of Harry Dresden. It's not always perfect writing, Harry Dresden, and therefore the narration. It's really interesting, but the narration of Harry Dresden can be a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Like he can kind of leer at the female characters a little bit. It's a first person narration, and he'll like describe their bodies in kind of ways that you're like, dude, really? Which is very funny to me because normally that's a highlight of an author who thinks about women a certain way. But Jim Butcher also wrote the Cinder Spire saga, which I've reviewed, in which the women are described very respectfully. So I guess it actually is like a Harry Dresden personality trait. And Harry Dresden is not a perfect character. He's an interesting character. He's mostly likable. He's got certainly a level of charisma to him, but he's not perfect. But yeah, it's about a wizard who lives in Chicago and works as a private eye. And by the time you get to the 15th book, he's not doing much detectiving anymore, which is kind of a natural progression for these kinds of urban fantasy novels. But it's there's a lot of really cool lore and backstory. One of the things I love about the really high quality urban fantasy series is like how they tie in all the lore and mythology of all the different religions, and like, oh, here's, these are what the fairies look like in this world, and you were told stories and some of them were true and some of them weren't. And here's what vampires are like, and here's the Norse deities and the Greek gods, and Big G God is probably real too somehow. And so you tie all that stuff together. And like I've said, one of the reasons I fell in love with the MCU was when they did the Avengers and they brought all these characters together in like a big team up. And so Dresden urban fantasy series like Dresden Files, like some others that I'll get to another time, have been doing that kind of team up with mythology and with folk tales for decades before the MCU was ever doing it. It's amazing movies took that long to catch on to like how cool of a concept that was. Comic books, of course, were doing it for decades before the movies got to it. But yeah, so I have a really fun time with it. I love mythology and folklore. I think it's just a really good, really interesting time. I was obsessed with Greek mythology as a kid, which is funny because as an adult, I realized that the Greek mythology I studied as a kid was very Disneyfied as compared to what actually happened. But yeah, so it's fun. He's kind of a snarky, witty, kind of goofy guy, and I enjoy it.
It kind of sounds like you.
He's a lot more powerful than me, and he can be a little bit meaner than me. But that's who he is.
I like it. I like it. All right, Jeremy, that's going to do it for today's Royals Rundown podcast. Thank you all for joining us. If you're still listening, make sure you don't miss an episode from us by liking, subscribing, or following the podcast wherever you are listening to us on. We appreciate you being here. But you can also follow along with us on social media, even though I'm kind of a part of this Threads migration again. All
of my timeline is like, we're going to Blue Sky. I'm like, you told me you were doing that last time.
Yeah.
Why? What? First of all, why now? Like, okay, I know why you're saying now, but that doesn't really make sense. And are you actually going this time? Because you said you were last time, and I tried to go with you, and none of you went. And like the things that you say are a problem over on Twitter are probably going to become a problem over there. I feel like it's all very performative and obnoxious, and I don't know why we're bothering. But you go ahead and move to Threads if you want to, Jacob. I won't think less of you.
Appreciate it. I still open up Twitter. I'm just not like engaging on Twitter at all or nothing like that. But you can still follow me.
I definitely have. I usually have a tab just permanently open to Twitter, and I have that tab closed for the last week, and it's probably going to stay closed. Like, I'm still tweeting. I'll get on my phone every once in a while, but I'm not spending as much time scrolling on there as I have been, and I will probably keep that at least reduced for a while. Not because of any of this stuff that's causing people. I just like it's bad for my mental health right now to be on there and see the way people are behaving.
I agree with that. Just find us over at royalsreview.com. You can engage with us down in the comments section, or hey, if you have a good fan post, we'll go read it, let you know what we think of it. But you can only do that over at royalsreview.com. Once again, my name is Jacob Milham. He is Jeremy Greco. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, oh Royals!
The thing about when you take a multiverse or you do like a team up like that is and